I need you to stop what you're doing right now. Not in a minute. Not after you finish what you're working on. Right now. Because what I'm about to say to you, what I've been building up the courage to say for a long time, is the kind of thing that changes how you see everything. And I mean everything. The way you see your morning routine. The way you see your relationships. The way you see the news, the economy, your job, your future. The way you see yourself. And I know that sounds like a big promise. I know you've heard big promises before. I know you've clicked on things that promise to change your life and delivered nothing but 15 minutes of your time that you'll never get back. This is different. And the reason it's different is simple. I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. I'm not going to reveal some hidden secret that only I have access to. I'm not going to sell you a system, or a course, or a mindset shift. I'm just going to say out loud the things that you already feel, deep down, but have never heard anyone say clearly. The things that float around in the back of your mind at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. The things you almost say to people you trust, and then pull back at the last second because you're not sure they'll understand. I understand. And we really need to talk about this. Let's start with the thing nobody wants to say first. You are tired. Not tired in the way that a good night's sleep fixes. Not tired in the way that a vacation cures. You are tired in a way that goes all the way down to your bones, to your soul, to whatever part of you it is that decides whether life feels worth living or not. You are tired of pretending. Tired of performing. Tired of waking up every morning and putting on the version of yourself that the world expects to see. Tired of saying, "I'm fine," when you are not fine. Tired of smiling through things that hurt. Tired of working hard for a future that keeps moving further away, no matter how fast you run toward it. And the worst part, the part that makes it so much harder to bear, is that you feel like you're not supposed to be tired. Because look at everything you have. Look at how much better your life is than the lives of people in other places, other times. Look at how ungrateful it would seem to admit that despite all of it, despite the roof over your head and the food in your fridge and the phone in your hand, you feel hollow. So you don't admit it. You push it down. You tell yourself to be grateful, to be positive, to focus on what's good. And sometimes that works, for a little while. But it always comes back. That hollow feeling, that bone-deep tiredness, that quiet, persistent sense that something is fundamentally wrong. I want to tell you something about that feeling. Something important. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something is wrong with the world you've been asked to live in. And there is a profound difference between those two things. Let me take you back. Not to your childhood, not yet. We'll get there. But back to a moment that I think most of us have had, even if we've never named it. There was a moment, maybe you were a teenager, maybe you were in your 20s, maybe it happened just last year, when you looked at the life that was being laid out in front of you and thought, wait, is this it? Is this really what it's all supposed to add up to? School, then work, then retirement, then death, consuming and producing and consuming some more, until your body gives out and the machine moves on without you. And maybe someone told you that was just cynicism, that you'd grow out of it, that when you got older and had more responsibilities, you'd understand why things are the way they are and you'd stop asking those questions. But you didn't stop asking. You just stopped saying them out loud. Because the world is not kind to people who ask those questions. The world calls them lazy, or ungrateful, or naive, or dangerous. The world has 1,000 ways of telling you to get back in line, to stop rocking the boat, to be realistic, to grow up. And most of us, eventually, comply. Not because we stop believing the questions are worth asking, but because the cost of asking them out loud becomes too high. Because we have bills to pay and people depending on us, and we can't afford to be the person who questions everything. But the questions don't go away. They just go underground. They become that hollow feeling, that 3 a.m. restlessness, that sense of a life half lived. And today, I want to bring them back to the surface. Because I think the cost of not asking them is higher than we've been told. Let's talk about the story. Every society runs on stories. Not just the stories in books and movies, but the deeper stories. The ones so fundamental that we don't even recognize them as stories. The ones that feel like just the way things are. Our society runs on a story that goes something like this. Life is a competition. Resources are scarce. The goal is to accumulate as much as possible. Money, status, security, comfort, before you run out of time. The people who accumulate the most are the winners. The people who accumulate the least are the losers. And the outcome is determined primarily by individual effort, talent, and choices. This story is so deeply embedded in our culture that it shapes everything. The way we design our schools, ranked, graded, competitive. The way we structure our workplaces, hierarchical, performance evaluated, constantly sorting people into winners and losers. The way we talk about success and failure, always in terms of individual achievement, never in terms of structural conditions. The way we relate to each other, always, at some level, comparing, measuring, positioning. And here is what this story does to human beings. It makes us lonely. It makes us anxious. It makes us treat other people as competitors rather than companions. It makes us hide our struggles, because admitting struggle is admitting weakness, and weakness is dangerous in a competition. It makes us perform strength and success even when we feel neither, because the alternative, being seen as a loser, is too frightening to contemplate. It makes us, in other words, exactly the way most of us feel most of the time. And here is the thing about this story that I most need you to hear. It is not the only possible story. It is not a law of nature. It is not an inevitable feature of human existence. It is a choice that was made by specific people, at specific moments in history, for specific reasons. And like all choices, it can be unmade. I want to talk about what human beings are actually like. Not what the story tells us we are like, but what the evidence, the anthropology, the psychology, the neuroscience actually shows. Human beings are not primarily competitive. We are primarily cooperative. We evolved as a deeply social species, one whose survival depended not on individual strength but on collective intelligence, on the ability to work together, to share resources, to care for the weak and the young and the old. For the vast majority of human history, the most successful human groups were not the ones with the most aggressive individuals. They were the ones with the strongest bonds of trust and cooperation. Human beings are not primarily motivated by self-interest. We are motivated by meaning, by connection, by the desire to contribute to something larger than ourselves. Study after study in behavioral economics and psychology shows that when people have their basic needs met, what drives them is not the accumulation of more stuff. It is the desire to do work that matters, to be part of a community, to feel that their existence makes a difference. Human beings are not naturally indifferent to the suffering of others. We are wired for empathy. The mirror neuron system in our brains literally causes us to feel, at a neurological level, what we observe others feeling. Compassion is not a learned behavior that goes against our nature. It is our nature. It is what we are built for. So why does the world look so different from this description? Why does it look so competitive, so selfish, so indifferent to suffering? Because we have built systems, economic systems, political systems, cultural systems, that reward the worst of our nature and punish the best of it. We have built a world that treats cooperation as naive, that treats empathy as weakness, that treats the desire for meaning over money as impractical. And then we look at the results, the loneliness, the anxiety, the cruelty, the indifference, and we say, see, this is just human nature. It is not human nature. It is the nature of the systems we have built. And systems can be changed. Let me talk about something that I think is one of the most underappreciated crises of our time. Something that doesn't make headlines the way economic crises or political crises do, but that I believe is at the root of almost everything that is going wrong. We have a meaning crisis. Not a money crisis, though money is tight for many people. Not a time crisis, though time feels scarce. A meaning crisis. A widespread, profound, collective loss of the sense that life has purpose, that what we do matters, that there is something worth getting up for in the morning beyond the next task on the to-do list. The philosopher Albert Camus wrote about this in the middle of the 20th century. He called it the absurd, the gap between the human need for meaning and the universe's silence on the question of whether meaning exists. But what we are experiencing now is something different from Camus' philosophical absurdity. It is not the silence of the universe that is draining meaning from our lives. It is the noise of the culture. We are drowning in content, in stimulation, in information, in entertainment. We have more access to more things than any generation in human history, and we are more meaningless, more purposeless, more adrift than perhaps any generation since the collapse of the great religious frameworks that used to provide meaning for most people. Because meaning cannot be consumed. It cannot be streamed or scrolled or purchased. It can only be created. And it is created through the same things it has always been created through. Genuine relationships, meaningful work, contribution to community, engagement with something larger than yourself, the experience of being truly known by another person. These are the things that the modern world is worst at providing. And these are the things that human beings cannot live without. I want to spend some time talking about something that I think is both deeply personal and deeply political. Something that connects the private suffering of individuals to the public failures of societies. I want to talk about what it means to be a man in the world today. And before anyone switches off, this is not a conversation about gender politics in the way you might be expecting. This is a conversation about something much more fundamental. The way that rigid, narrow definitions of what it means to be a certain kind of person cause suffering for everyone, regardless of gender. But I want to start with men specifically, because I think the crisis among men is one of the most visible and least honestly discussed crises of our time. Men are dying. Not metaphorically. Literally. Men die by suicide at rates 3 to 4 times higher than women in most developed countries. Men are more likely to be homeless, more likely to be addicted, more likely to die of preventable causes, more likely to be isolated and alone. Men are falling behind in education, in employment, in health outcomes, in almost every measurable indicator of well-being. And the response to this crisis, from most of the culture, is either silence or blame. Either we don't talk about it at all, or we talk about it in ways that frame male suffering as a consequence of male behavior, as if the solution to men dying is simply for men to be better. But here is what I think is actually happening. We have raised generations of men inside a story that told them that strength means never needing anything. That asking for help is weakness. That vulnerability is dangerous. That the way to be a man is to be self-sufficient, emotionally contained, always in control, never afraid, never uncertain, never in pain. And then we are surprised when men, who have been told their entire lives that they are not allowed to need anything, end up alone and desperate and without the skills or the permission to reach out for help. This is not a men's problem. This is a human problem. Because the same story that destroys men also damages women, in different ways. The story that says strength means not needing anything, that vulnerability is weakness, that asking for help is shameful. This story hurts everyone it touches. It just hurts different people in different ways. And the solution is not to tell men to be more like women, or to tell women to be more like men. The solution is to tell all of us, all human beings, that we are allowed to be human. That needing things is not weakness. That vulnerability is not shameful. That asking for help is not failure. That the full range of human emotion, including fear and grief and uncertainty and longing, is not a sign of dysfunction. It is a sign of being alive. Let me talk about children, because I think if you want to understand what is going wrong with the world, you have to look at what we are doing to our children. We are raising children inside the same story I've been describing. The competitive story. The story that says your worth is determined by your performance. And we are starting earlier and earlier. Children today are tested, ranked, evaluated, and sorted from the moment they enter the school system. They are given homework in kindergarten. They are enrolled in structured activities from the time they can walk. They are taught, from the very beginning of their conscious lives, that the point of childhood is to prepare for adulthood, and the point of adulthood is to be productive. And what are we taking away from them in exchange? Play. Unstructured, purposeless, intrinsically motivated play. The thing that developmental psychologists consistently identify as the most important activity for the healthy development of children's brains: their social skills, their emotional regulation, their creativity, their resilience. We are taking away the thing children need most and replacing it with the thing that serves the system best: early training in compliance, performance, and the equation of worth with achievement. And then we wonder why rates of anxiety and depression among children and teenagers are at historic highs. We wonder why young people seem so fragile, so unable to cope with failure, so desperate for external validation. We wonder why they spend so much time on their phones, seeking the dopamine hit of likes and comments, the digital equivalent of the approval they have been trained since birth to need. We did this. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but systematically. We built a world that is profoundly hostile to childhood, and then we are surprised when the children it produces are struggling. I want to talk about something that I think is one of the most important and least discussed topics in public life: the relationship between economic inequality and human suffering, not in an abstract, statistical way, in a very concrete, human way. There is a researcher named Richard Wilkinson who has spent decades studying the relationship between inequality and health outcomes. And what his research shows, consistently, across dozens of countries and hundreds of studies, is that the most unequal societies are not just worse for the poor. They are worse for everyone. The more unequal a society is, the higher its rates of mental illness, addiction, obesity, violence, teenage pregnancy, and imprisonment. The lower its levels of trust, social mobility, educational achievement, and life expectancy. Not just for the people at the bottom. For everyone, including the people at the top. Because inequality does something to the social fabric of a community that cannot be undone by individual wealth. It creates a culture of status anxiety, a constant, pervasive, exhausting competition for position that affects everyone, regardless of where they sit in the hierarchy. It destroys the sense of shared fate, of common humanity, of being in this together, that human beings need to feel safe and connected. In highly unequal societies, people stop trusting each other. They stop cooperating. They start seeing every interaction as a potential threat or competition. They build walls, literal and metaphorical, between themselves and the people below them, and they spend enormous amounts of energy trying to stay above the people above them. This is not a good way to live. It is not a good way for anyone to live. And yet, it is the way that most of us in the developed world are living, right now, today. And the people who benefit most from this system, the people at the very top of the hierarchy, have a very strong interest in making sure that the conversation about inequality stays focused on individual choices and individual responsibility, rather than on the structural conditions that produce and maintain inequality. Because if we started talking honestly about those structural conditions, we might start demanding that they change. And that would be very inconvenient for the people who benefit from them. Let me talk about something that I think is both deeply uncomfortable and absolutely necessary. The way we talk about race and class and the intersections between them. I am not going to pretend that these are simple topics. They are not. They are among the most complex, most contested, most emotionally charged topics in public life. And I am not going to pretend that I have all the answers, because I don't. But I want to say something that I think gets lost in most of the conversations about these topics, something that I think is true regardless of where you sit politically. The suffering of marginalized communities is not separate from the suffering of everyone else. It is connected to it. The same systems that exploit and oppress the most vulnerable members of our society also harm everyone else, just in less visible ways. The same economic structures that keep poor communities of color trapped in poverty also keep working-class white communities trapped in declining towns with no economic future. The same political systems that deny representation to minority communities also deny meaningful representation to the majority of ordinary citizens. We have been taught to see these as separate problems, competing problems, problems where one group's gain is another group's loss. And that framing, that zero-sum framing, is one of the most powerful tools that the people at the top of the hierarchy use to keep everyone else divided and powerless. Because as long as working-class white people and working-class people of color are fighting each other over the scraps, they are not looking up at the people who are taking the whole pie. As long as we are divided by race and religion and culture and politics, we cannot build the kind of solidarity that would actually threaten the people who benefit from our division. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is a documented historical strategy. It has been used, explicitly and deliberately, by powerful interests throughout history to prevent the formation of cross-racial working-class solidarity. And it is still being used today, in more sophisticated and subtle ways, through the media, through political messaging, through the algorithmic amplification of divisive content. The antidote is not to pretend that race doesn't matter, or that the specific experiences of specific communities are not real and important. They are. The antidote is to hold two things at once: the reality of specific, particular forms of oppression, and the reality of a shared interest in a more just and equal world. I want to talk about the future, because I think one of the most damaging things that has happened to our collective psychology in recent years is the loss of the future as a place of hope. For most of human history, the future was where things got better. Progress was the dominant story. Each generation would have more than the last. The arc of history bent toward justice. Things were hard now, but they would be better for our children. That story has collapsed. And in its place, for many people, is something much darker: the sense that the future is a place of catastrophe. Climate change, political instability, economic precarity, technological disruption, the erosion of democracy, the rise of authoritarianism, the list of things that seem to be getting worse, not better, is long and growing. And I want to be honest with you. Some of those fears are legitimate. The climate crisis is real. Democratic institutions are under genuine pressure. Economic inequality is genuinely increasing. These are not imaginary problems. But I want to push back against something. I want to push back against the particular flavor of despair that has become fashionable in certain circles. The idea that collapse is inevitable, that nothing can be done, that the only rational response to the state of the world is nihilism or withdrawal. Because that despair, however understandable, is also a choice. And it is a choice that serves the interests of the people who benefit from the status quo. Because a despairing population is a passive population. A population that believes nothing can change will not try to change anything. And a population that does not try to change anything will not change anything. The people who have always changed the world, the abolitionists, the suffragettes, the labor organizers, the civil rights activists, were not people who believed that change was inevitable or easy. They were people who believed that change was necessary and possible, and who acted on that belief in the face of enormous evidence to the contrary. Hope is not naive. Hope is a discipline. It is the choice to act as if the future is worth fighting for, even when the evidence is ambiguous, even when the outcome is uncertain, even when the forces arrayed against change are powerful and entrenched. And I genuinely, deeply believe, that the future is worth fighting for. Not because I am certain it will be good, but because the alternative, giving up, withdrawing, accepting that this is as good as it gets, is not something I am willing to do. And I don't think you are either. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be here. Let me talk about something practical. Because I've been talking about big systems and big structures, and I want to bring it back to the level of your actual life. The life you wake up in every morning. The life you are living right now. What does it actually look like to live differently? Not in a revolutionary, burn it all down way, but in the small, daily, accumulating way that is actually how lives change. It starts with attention, with noticing, with developing the habit of asking, about everything you do and everything you consume. Why am I doing this? Who benefits from this? Is this aligned with what I actually value, or am I doing it because I've been trained to do it? This sounds simple. It is not simple, because we are surrounded by systems that are specifically designed to prevent this kind of reflection. The attention economy wants you scrolling, not thinking. The consumer economy wants you buying, not questioning. The political system wants you choosing between the options it presents, not asking why those are the only options. Developing the habit of genuine reflection, of actually stopping and asking what you want and why, is an act of resistance in a world that profits from your thoughtlessness. And it is the foundation of everything else. The second thing is connection. Real connection. Not the performed, curated, optimized connection of social media. The kind of connection that happens when two people are honest with each other. When someone says, "I'm not okay," and the other person says, "I know, me neither." When the performance drops and the real person shows up. This is terrifying. I know it is. Because we have been trained to hide the real person. We have been taught that the real person, the uncertain, struggling, imperfect, fully human person, is not acceptable. That we have to earn love and belonging by being good enough, successful enough, together enough. That is a lie. And the cost of believing it is the loneliness that most of us carry around like a stone in our chest. The third thing is community. Not community in the abstract, but community in the specific. The people in your actual life, in your actual neighborhood, in your actual world. The people you could call if something went wrong. The people who would notice if you disappeared. For many people, this community barely exists. We have traded it for mobility, for privacy, for the freedom to reinvent ourselves without the weight of people who knew us before. And we have paid an enormous price for that trade. Building community is slow and unglamorous work. It does not look like a social media post. It looks like showing up, like being reliable, like investing time and energy in relationships that don't have an obvious return on investment, like being the person who organizes the thing, who checks in on the neighbor, who stays when it would be easier to leave. It is the most important work most of us will ever do. And it is the work that our culture values least. I want to talk about grief, because I think grief is one of the most important and most suppressed experiences in modern life. We are living through a time of enormous loss. Loss of certainty, of stability, of the futures we thought we were going to have. Loss of communities, of traditions, of ways of life that gave people meaning and belonging. Loss of trust, in institutions, in each other, in the idea that the world is basically fair and basically safe. And we are not grieving these losses. We are not allowed to grieve them, because grief is slow and unproductive, and it doesn't fit into the story of relentless forward progress that our culture demands. Because grief requires stillness, and our culture is terrified of stillness. Because grief is a form of vulnerability, and vulnerability is weakness, and weakness is dangerous. So we don't grieve. We distract. We scroll. We consume. We stay busy. We tell ourselves to be positive, to focus on what we can control, to look for the silver lining. And the grief goes underground. It becomes depression, or anxiety, or rage, or numbness. It becomes the hollow feeling, the bone-deep tiredness, the sense that something is fundamentally wrong that we can't quite name. What would it look like to actually grieve? To sit with the losses, to name them, to feel them, to let them move through us rather than pushing them down? To say out loud, "I am sad about what has been lost. I am afraid of what is coming. I am angry about what has been done. I am grieving, and that is okay, and I don't have to fix it or rush through it or turn it into a lesson." I think it would look like the beginning of healing, not the end of it, not a solution, but the beginning of something real, something honest, something that might eventually lead somewhere better than the place we are now. I want to talk about what I believe, not what I know, not what the research shows, not what the evidence suggests. What I actually, personally, in my gut and my heart, believe. I believe that human beings are fundamentally good. Not perfectly good. Not incapable of cruelty or selfishness or violence, but fundamentally, at the core, oriented toward goodness, toward connection, toward care, toward the desire to leave the world a little better than they found it. I believe that most of the cruelty and indifference and destruction in the world is not the expression of human nature. It is the expression of human beings who have been hurt, who have been denied what they needed, who have been placed in systems that reward the worst of what they are capable of and punish the best. I believe that the world can be different. Not perfect, not utopian, but genuinely, meaningfully better. More just, more compassionate, more honest, more human. I believe this not because I am naive about the obstacles, but because I have seen what human beings are capable of when they are at their best. And what they are capable of is extraordinary. I believe that the conversation we are having right now, this conversation between you and me, about the things that are wrong and the things that could be better, is part of how the world changes. Not the whole of it, but part of it. Because change always starts with people being willing to say out loud what they have only been thinking in private. And I believe that you, the person listening to this, the person who has stayed with me through all of this, are someone who cares. Someone who is not content to accept the world as it is. Someone who feels the gap between what is and what could be, and who has not yet given up on the possibility of closing it. That matters. More than you know. We are coming toward the end of this conversation, and I want to use the time we have left to say the things that I think are most important. The things I most want you to carry with you when this is over. The first thing is this: your suffering is real, and it is not your fault. Whatever you are carrying, the anxiety, the loneliness, the sense of inadequacy, the feeling that you are falling behind, the hollow emptiness that no amount of achievement or consumption seems to fill, that is real. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not a personal failing. It is the predictable result of living in a world that is not designed for human flourishing. And you deserve to know that. The second thing is this: you are not alone. I know it feels that way. I know the isolation of modern life can make it feel like everyone else has figured something out that you haven't, like everyone else is managing fine while you are barely holding it together. But that is the performance. Behind the performance, almost everyone is carrying something heavy. Almost everyone feels the gap between the life they are living and the life they want to live. Almost everyone is longing for something more real, more honest, more connected than what they have. You are not alone in this. You are surrounded by people who feel exactly what you feel. You just can't see it because everyone is performing too hard to let it show. The third thing is this: small things matter. I know it can feel like nothing you do makes a difference, like the problems are too big and you are too small and the forces arrayed against change are too powerful. But that is not how change works. Change works through the accumulation of small things, through one honest conversation that opens a door, through one act of genuine kindness that reminds someone they are not invisible, through one person deciding to stop performing and start being real, and the ripple effect that creates in everyone around them. You cannot change the world alone, but you can change your corner of it, and your corner of it is connected to every other corner, and the changes you make in your corner matter, even when you can't see how. The fourth thing is this: it is not too late. Whatever you have given up on, the relationship you let go cold, the dream you stopped believing in, the version of yourself you left behind somewhere along the way, it is not too late. Not for all of it. Maybe not for some of it. But for more of it than you think. The story that says you are too old, too far gone, too set in your ways, too damaged by what has happened to you, that story is a lie. Human beings are extraordinarily resilient. Extraordinarily capable of change, of growth, of beginning again. The research on neuroplasticity shows that the brain retains the capacity for change throughout life. The The research on post-traumatic growth shows that the people who have been through the worst things are often the ones who develop the deepest wisdom, the most genuine compassion, the most unshakable sense of what actually matters. Your history is not your destiny. What has happened to you is not who you are. And the life you want is not as far away as it feels. And the fifth thing, the last thing, the most important thing, is this. We really need to talk about this. Not just you and me, here, in this moment. All of us. Together. In our homes and our workplaces and our communities and our public spaces. We need to have the conversations that we have been avoiding. The honest ones. The uncomfortable ones. The ones where we say what we actually think and feel instead of what we think we are supposed to think and feel. We need to talk about the fact that we are all exhausted and nobody is saying it. We need to talk about the fact that the system is not working for most people, and we have been told it is our fault. We need to talk about the loneliness, the meaninglessness, the anxiety, the grief. We need to talk about what we actually want, not what we have been told to want, but what we, in the deepest and most honest part of ourselves, actually long for. Because here is what I know about conversations like that. They change things. Not immediately. Not dramatically. But they change things. They create the conditions for something different. They remind people that they are not alone. They build the trust and the solidarity that make collective action possible. They are the seeds of everything that comes next. The world does not change because powerful people decide to change it. The world changes because ordinary people start talking to each other honestly. Because they start seeing each other clearly. Because they start recognizing their shared humanity, and their shared interests, and their shared longing for something better. That is how it has always happened. And that is how it will happen again. So talk, please, to the person next to you, to the friend you haven't called in too long, to the stranger who looks like they are carrying something heavy, to yourself, honestly, in the quiet moments when the performance drops and the real you shows up. Talk about what is wrong. Talk about what you want. Talk about what you are afraid of and what you are hoping for and what you are grieving and what you are not willing to give up on. Talk about this. Because we really, really need to. I want to end with something that happened to me not long ago. Something small, but something that has stayed with me. I was sitting in a coffee shop, working, headphones in, doing what we all do. Being physically present in a public space while being mentally somewhere else entirely. And the person at the table next to me said something. Not to me specifically. Just out loud, to no one in particular. They said, "I just really miss feeling like things were going to be okay." And I took my headphones out. And I looked at them. And I said, "Me too." And we talked. For 2 hours. Two strangers in a coffee shop, talking about the things we never talk about. About fear and hope and loneliness and the strange grief of living in a time when the future feels uncertain. About what we wanted our lives to look like and how far they were from that. About the things we were ashamed of and the things we were proud of and the things we didn't know how to name. And when we finally left, both of us said the same thing. I needed that. I didn't know how much I needed that until it happened. That is what I want for you. Not a revolution. Not a system change. Not a 10-step plan. Just that. A conversation. A real one. With someone who is willing to take their headphones out and say, "Me too." It starts there. It always starts there. And it starts now. We really needed to talk about this. And now, finally, we have.